Hello everyone, it's thomasjujube, and before we get into anything Avengers related, you may have noticed that everything looks different now for the channel. That is because I obviously created a channel rebrand. With the release of Avengers Endgame, which will completely change the MCU going forward, and the coming new Reiwa era in Japan, and the Hasbro era of Power Rangers starting, I also wanted to change my channel to reflect essentially everything that I'm into, completely changing themselves. So we went with a more refined look, but I kind of like that still attached to the older style. So you can go back to those old videos and it's still kind of the same, but just a little bit different. And along with that, I'm still going to be talking about the same stuff. Don't worry, Kamen Rider, Super Sentai, Power Rangers, that main stuff, that is staying. But for example, Transformers was in my channel art. Transformers never really did well on this channel, so Transformers might be taking a back burner. And along with that, I want to try to pursue more Marvel stuff, and that was an indie banner, and I didn't want to make that feel more cluttered than it kind of already was. So this separation from any specific brand in the channel art will hopefully allow myself to branch out to other areas and other media and hopefully talk about those as well. Now obviously I'm staying as Muteki, but to be fair, that doesn't really matter, because if you don't know what this is, it just still looks cool, doesn't it? I don't think I need to change my icon, but everything else, that is changing to reflect the new era and hopefully a little bit of a different direction for the channel, but it will still stay largely the same. Now, let's get into Avengers Endgame. Now, before I get into it, obviously, don't spoil the Endgame has been a big thing, and I don't want to spoil the Endgame for you, so if you haven't seen Avengers Endgame yet, please leave right now. I don't want to spoil it, and I'm going to go full in depth with the spoilers because I really want to go full in depth with the spoilers. So, alright, now that you're out of here, now let me just switch costumes. Alright, there we go. Now let's get into Avengers Endgame. Man, oh man, was this movie just... I mean, this movie was so cool. I love Infinity War, and I'll just say it right now. I think I prefer Infinity War overall to this movie, but if you take out maybe like a few elements of this movie, then of Endgame specifically, then honestly Endgame will beat Infinity War as my favorite movie of the MCU. Avengers Endgame was just so cool. So let's go. I'm gonna go through it part by part. So there's obviously like kind of 3 big parts to this movie. So, which I think kind of defined by each individual hour, because it's a 3-hour movie, so that's pretty cool. So, let's get into it with the first hour of the movie. This first hour, I'm going to say right now, is I think the worst part of the movie, and it's really the roughest part of the movie. And that's only present really in the second half of this first third, if you get what I'm saying. Basically, I love the kind of exploration of what is going on in this world. Like, we get, like, there's a bunch of, memorials for what they're calling the Vanished. We have Scott Lang, Ant-Man, like, discovering this. We have, the big thing is, obviously, Iron Man has a child. I think they say her name is Morgan, because they kind of name-dropped that in Infinity War. So he's kind of come like full circle. He's kind of more or less retired, but obviously, I mean, he's still making Iron Man suits, so maybe not entirely. But that was really cool. And I expected the intro where they all try to stop Thanos, but just kind of the way it was presented was really interesting. It was really cool. Just kind of, they really lost. They thought they had a chance to save everyone, and they didn't. They really did lose. So, I mean, they bring up that glimmer of hope in the beginning, and then they crush it right then and there in the beginning. So obviously, you know, they're going to do whatever it takes to bring everyone back, but still, that was very cool. So now we'll get into, I guess, what I don't like about this first half, or for this first third, so I can start talking about everything I do like / love. And that is kind of, I think everything for me falls apart when we get to Professor Hulk, which is, they don't explicitly call him that, but that's, let's face it, it's Professor Hulk. Professor Hulk in this movie is essentially a joke, and that's kind of sad, basically, because they said they were creating this arc for the Incredible Hulk in these movies, since they can't give Hulk his own movie, so they're like, let's give him an arc throughout 3 movies. I think it started in Ragnarok, where we have Hulk talking, And then we get to Infinity War, where we have like Bruce Banner versus Hulk, kind of, sorta. And then in Endgame, now we have Professor Hulk. The thing that I felt was really bad was that Professor Hulk is just literally, the ending of this character, of this growth, is done off screen, and then when we bring it in, it's just presented as a joke. Like, the idea of Professor Hulk itself, yes, is very goofy, but like, they play it off like really, really big as a joke when they show him with Ant-Man. That was just like, that was so weird. Like I mean, so Professor Hulk is weird, but I have to accept that. But like, they could do it weird, but they don't have to like use him as a joke. He's like so used as a joke. Like, oh, can we get a picture with you? Oh yeah, smash. That was so bad. And then when we get Hulk and Rocket are going to get Thor, and we have this cheesy music playing, it's really weird. And I'm like literally, I saw this scene, and all that was going through my head was Avengers Endgame. We're in the Endgame now, and as we're driving down to New Asgard, which the idea of New Asgard was cool, and we got to see Valkyrie back, which was also very cool. But I don't know, because like Fat Thor, I actually quite like Fat Thor. The idea that Thor has just kind of let himself go. He really could honestly be said to be the one that to blame the most, since he didn't go for the head, and he did go for the head at once he came back to Thanos. So that was kind of a cool nod, like he went for the head. But it was, I mean, I liked the Fat Thor, and it was funny seeing him with Meek and what's his name, the Korg, Meek and Korg. But then like they have Fortnite playing, which is kind of funny because they have the Fortnite Avengers crossover, but like kind of why? And then like there's a screen cap now in the MCU of Rocket talking in front of Fortnite. Okay, I don't know, something about that scene was presented really weirdly. Maybe it was just because my theater kept laughing, and I was like, oh, we're in the Endgame now, and people are just laughing their butts off to Avengers Endgame. Okay, I mean, no one was laughing that hard in Infinity War. Here's what I'm saying. Infinity War had its jokes. Every Marvel movie has its jokes, but here, this is like the final movie of this era of the MCU, and like the first half feels like they're really trying to pull this like slapstick comedy, especially then when they start getting into the time travel. And then we have Scott Lang like going through his different ages like it's a cartoon. And I was thinking, like, if he, like, I think he became a baby, and I was thinking, like, if he gets old, I'm literally gonna lose it. And he got old, and I didn't lose it, but that was really weird. This first half is really strange, honestly. So, or not first half, this first third, it's really weird. I don't know if they maybe took out like some of this humor, like, then I think the movie would probably be perfect. But this first half kind of brings it down. So then we get so obviously throughout this first third, though, they reveal that we're gonna be using time travel. And I was very interested to see how they were gonna avenge the Fallen. And I was thinking for a while they were gonna start using dimensions, because I didn't think they wanted to mess with the timeline of the MCU. And there was that picture of Pepper in a suit, an Iron Man suit, and I thought that was like Pepper, like they go to a dimension where Pepper is Iron Man. That would have been cool, but they didn't do that, and I'm fine, because I mean, the time travel. Then I'm gonna start talking about the second third, and that second third is just fantastic. You don't know how much I love that second third of the movie, where they're just going through time, rediscovering the MCU. Like, this movie, especially the second half, was made for people who love the MCU and have watched all of these movies maybe countless times or tons of times, seen all these videos. This movie was made for those people. Like, they go to New York, they replay the Avengers spiral scene, and we get the Avengers, they split off, and then we get Hulk goes to the Strange Manor, out of the Sanctum Sanctorum, that's what it's called. He goes to the Sanctum, and then he talks to the Ancient One. I think that's what her name was. I don't quite remember. But he goes to her, and they don't explain it at all. Like, oh, this is the Ancient One. She was in charge of Doctor Strange. They just expect you to know these things. And that's fine, because it's the 22nd movie in a franchise. So hopefully you know what's going on at this point, you know? So, speaking of that reminded me of the scene then where all the Avengers are trying to figure out which stones to go to, and I did like that scene. But then again, like here we go again. That scene is kind of like, what? Like I mean, it feels really weird. They're like, this is their plan to bring back the Fallen, and it's like presented as like a weird kind of slapsticky scene. So I don't know. And then from there, I forgot about Hawkeye as Ronin. There's so much in this movie, guys. I'm sorry if I forget something. If I forget something, please ask me. If you want to know my thoughts on it, you can ask me in the comments, and I'll let you know my thoughts on that. There's a lot, so I'll probably forget something. Hawkeye as Ronin was really cool. I really wanted to see Hawkeye transition to Ronin, and I was kind of sad to see in the trailers it looked like he became Hawkeye again, but it kind of seems like he's staying as Ronin. Like he never there was like never a distinct switch, or like now it's like now he's Hawkeye. He wore the Ronin armor, I think, throughout the rest of the movie. He's just not killing people anymore, which is, I think, a good thing. So the transformation from Hawkeye to Ronin, like throughout this whole MCU, is very, very interesting, and I think it's a great way to finish off Clint Barton's character, or Jeremy Renner's character as Clint Barton. If they do push him to the side, I think this is a nice way to end it, because well, I was about to get into the Soul Stone, but I think I'll leave that for later. So again, where was I? Sanctum Sanctorum, Hulk at the Sanctum Sanctorum talking to the Ancient One. That was pretty cool. And this also brings me like to another thing I really liked, which is the MCU feels very lived in, obviously. Like all these movies connect to each other in some way or another, be it small, be it large, they all connect somehow. But somehow this movie made the MCU feel more lived in. Like now we know that while the Avengers are defending Earth, or while the Avengers are defending New York from the Chitauri invasion, we have the Ancient One in New York defending as well, at least defending the Sanctorum, but she's also helping out as well, and we realize that she's always known Doctor Strange would show up. Like, it feels so nice to know there's like, people will always be like, oh, where were the magicians during this, or where was this person during this? And they kind of explained that a little bit. I mean, they didn't have to, but they did, and that's nice. Same thing with the Avengers capture Loki. And then they go, they're at the bottom, and then when they walk, they're at the bottom of the building, I mean, and they're about to leave with the Tesseract, and then we have Robert Redford, I think that's the actor's name, I don't remember the character's name then, I'm just going to call him Robert Redford. We have him walk up to the Avengers and demand to have the Tesseract because he's part of S.H.I.E.L.D. It like makes the world feel, it makes the Avengers feel more connected to the other movies, even though it was literally already connected to the other movies in like the most, in as many possible ways. Avengers was already connected to every MCU movie, and they've literally connected it more. How do you do that? Like, that's amazing. So I guess while we're talking about that, we also got the Cap versus Cap fight, and I thought this scene was a bit weird, but in retrospective, I thought it was funny, where he's like, Cap, look at your ass. That is America's ass. that was funny, I will admit. So, and then Cap versus Cap fight was also pretty cool. So, I think that's it for me geeking it out about the Avengers scene. I will admit, though, what happened to Loki? He takes the Tesseract and leaves. And if time went as it should, what happened to Loki? Did he come back? And that brings me to another thing that I think they could have fleshed out a little bit better, which is the time travel thing. They like explained it very quickly with like 3 sentences, and I was like, oh, okay. Sure, I don't really know how this time travel is supposed to work. Like, it appears, obviously they put back the Infinity Stones where they got them, so the timeline is still intact in some fashion. But I'm a little curious, like they said something specific, like your past is present, blah blah blah. I don't remember the exact lines, but it seems weird. Like, some stuff happens that doesn't seem like it would fit in the other times. So from Avengers, from 2012 New York, we go to 2013 Asgard. There's not much to talk about here except Thor and Rocket. That was nice, where Rocket's telling Thor to snap out of it, because I was like, Thor, can we please get Thor back to normal? I like Thor when he's back to normal. Though I did like how he grew out his hair again, but now it's like a very different, and I mean I liked the fat Thor, as I said earlier. So it was nice seeing Thor with his mother, and it was very cool to see he got Mjolnir back. And I was thinking like he grabbed Mjolnir, and I was like, oh cool, he's got Mjolnir. But then I was like, wait, is he gonna take it back with him? Oh, he took it back with him. I lost my mind when he summoned Stormbreaker, then summoned Mjolnir. I was like, oh yeah, yes. And we'll get more into Mjolnir later, obviously. Third section of the movie, not there yet, not quite there yet. But from the transition from Asgard, at one point, I think when Thor grabs his hammer, there's like music coming up in the background, and I was like, what is this music? Like, again, I was kind of like, we're going back to this comedy part of the movie, and it cuts to Peter Quill dancing, and I realized they literally just ripped the title card of Guardians of the Galaxy out from Guardians of the Galaxy, but they don't even put the title card there because it's meant to just show him dancing. And that's when I realized right then and there, like, oh my god, they're really going for that whole, like, this is for the fans movie. Because, like, if you didn't see all these videos, as I said earlier, like, you wouldn't really, this scene wouldn't stand out to you. But, like, I totally recognize that as the opening intro to Guardians of the Galaxy. You recognize they literally pulled that shot right out of the movie and took out the title card. That was so cool. So, and it was also funny how he just got smacked by War Machine. So that was kind of funny as well. So then, well, speaking of War Machine, then he goes back into obviously normal time, as we see, or the present time. But then we see Nebula get stuck because she gets captured by Thanos. Then, and Thanos from 2014. And once again, this is one of the things I was really kind of sad they didn't expand on in the MCU as in general, because we only get Thanos in Infinity War, obviously, but he had been conquering throughout all of these movies and before that. So I was kind of hoping we could see more of Thanos being Thanos in his prime, conquering planets with his Chitauri, not having Loki do it, doing it himself with the children of Thanos, Gamora, Nebula, pretty much like the Thanos army, the squad of Thanos, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I kind of wanted to see that more, and they totally delivered on that in this movie. I mean, we get Gamora and Nebula in, like, fully under his, not under his control, but fully, like, children of Thanos, daughters of Thanos, I guess. So then we get Thanos, like, with his sword all bloody. We get the Sanctuary 2. It was, I mean, that was, I love the Thanos scenes. The Thanos scenes were really great in this movie. So then, obviously, he discovers the thing with Nebula, captures Nebula, realizes they are she's from 9 years in the future, and replaces her with the, I guess, evil Nebula that has not been quite brought to the light side, and sends her back to the present. So then we get the last squad of Infinity Stone collecting. Well, it's part of the same squad, I guess, but last section where we have Hawkeye and Black Widow go get the Soul Stone, and that was, I mean, this wasn't, in my opinion, the saddest part of the movie, but for, like, Black Widow fans out there, that must have been really sad to see her dead there, sacrificing herself for the Soul Stone. Basically mirrored the entire scene with Thanos because they played the same soundtrack as well. So that was really sad. It was nice to see this kind of ending to Black Widow's character. A character that we know started out as basically a villain. We never saw her as a villain, but we know she was basically a villain. Came to the light, the Shield, the good guys. Then over time, basically found a family with the Avengers we see in this movie. She's still dedicated to the Avengers cause since she's leading them in 2023. The MCU is now 5 years ahead. And she did whatever it takes. She sacrificed herself for protecting everyone, which is, I mean, it was really sad. It was a great way to end her character, I think. So we also got the Iron Man and Captain America in the Shield bunker scene, which I'm not entirely sure, but I think that was the bunker in the Winter Soldier, but I'm not entirely sure. It looked very similar. So that was cool. Nothing much there, but it was nice to see Tony with his father. And also his father's butler was named Jarvis. So once again, more kind of like a little lore added. Jarvis was the original butler, and he was the butler in the comics as well. So it was kind of cool to see that was canon in the MCU as well. So from there, I think, from there, and then we get into the third and final part of Avengers Endgame, where all the Avengers, after basically all the fan service, which was totally awesome, They get back to the Avengers HQ and assemble the gauntlet, which the Stark Gauntlet, I think I'll call it that. That's what most people were going to call it. That's what most people thought they were going to do in the movie, and go figure, they did that in the movie. So that was pretty cool. So they assembled the Stark Gauntlet. They decide to let Hulk use it. And see, this is where I'm kind of upset we didn't see Hulk become Professor Hulk, or Banner and Hulk become Professor Hulk, because obviously he kind of gives the big sacrifice to bring everyone back. But he's just like, it kind of feels a little hollow because we just kind of all of a sudden get Professor Hulk off screen. So that's why I kind of wanted Professor Hulk to be more fleshed out. So they bring back we think they bring back the Fall, and he snaps. It's kind of creepy. They use the same sound as well. And then it also kind of shows how powerful Thanos is. He put on the gauntlet, Professor Hulk, and immediately he's like losing it. Thanos had the gauntlet on the whole movie, and he really didn't, or all of Infinity War, and he really didn't lose his power until he actually used all the stones to create the decimation, the snap. So that was quite interesting as well. So then we get Hawkeye. Obviously, he gets his phone call, and then we realize, or phone call to show that everyone's back. And then Thanos from Guardians of the Galaxy 2014. So in my opinion, people are like, oh, why is Thanos much more powerful in this movie? And then yes, that is true, but that's because this is Thanos, in my opinion, at like the height of his power without the Infinity Stones. Like 2014 is where we first got like the big extended cameo of Thanos. So it seems this is like Thanos really at in his prime. So I think that might be why he's more powerful, but I will admit it is a bit strange. So then we get the Sanctuary 2 blows the Avengers compound apart, which I don't think we've ever really seen anything like that. We kind of saw Stark Tower get destroyed, but that wasn't the Avengers' base yet, so that's cheating. So blows apart the Avengers compound. We get everyone scattered, and then I think we have the Trinity, Iron Man, Stark, Captain America, and Thor. The three of them see Thanos, and they're like, well, we gotta fight Thanos. So they start fighting Thanos. They start throwing down. It's really, really cool. We saw the Iron Man suit already throughout most of the movie, but this is the first time we actually saw Thor get back into it with, the whole... Actually, before I forget, Captain America, I was going to say this is not the first time we saw Captain America throw down in this movie, because we saw him earlier in the elevator scene, which totally referenced the scene from The Winter Soldier, which I really loved. And I was like, are they going to do it where he beats everyone up? Like, I thought he was going to say, before we get started, would anyone like to get out? And then he just turns over to the guy and says, Hail Hydra. And then he takes the scepter. That was really cool and funny. So, again, perfect combination of fan service. Back to the finale, where we get Iron Man is Stark, where we get Stark, Cap, and Thor. Thor summons Stormbreaker, and I'm like, yes. And then he summons Mjolnir too, and I'm like, oh yes, double hammer Thor. They start throwing down with Thanos. It's such a cool scene. At the same time, we get Hawkeye / Ronin. I'm gonna call him Ronin from now on. I think we get Ronin running through the tunnels with the Stark Gauntlet from the Outriders. People were speculating, is this the Raft? Is he taking out other villains or something? No, it's just Outriders. I think it's fine. He has the Gauntlet, obviously. And then I forget exactly what happens with the Gauntlet. I can't entirely remember. But we know at some point then, I think, all the Avengers are still trapped underground, except the Trinity, obviously. And then Iron Man and Thor are both pretty beaten up until, Thanos is like about to beat the crap out of Thor. And then we see Stormbreaker, or not Stormbreaker, we see Mjolnir from the Hammerhead move a little bit. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, it's Thor, he's controlling Mjolnir. Hits Thanos in the head, goes past Thor, and I'm just thinking, oh, he can really control it with his mind now. And then goes to Captain America. Literally, that's like the Marvel equivalent of Rey pulling out Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, but since it's Marvel and I like Marvel better, it's so much cooler. It was so cool. Obviously, people were wondering for the longest time, could Captain America use Mjolnir? There you go. Captain America can use Mjolnir. He finally lifted it up. My headcanon for why he could lift it up is, for all these years, he's been trying to help people move on. He's been trying to move on himself. Finally, he obviously created the Stark Gauntlet and brought everyone back. That's the tipping point which allowed him to hold Mjolnir and use Mjolnir, and he uses Mjolnir for the rest of the movie, and that's so cool. So from there, I think, but still, he gets pretty beaten up. The shield is basically completely destroyed. So then he's put in a corner, and then we get a little radio in his ear, the ear radio thing, which they kind of show throughout the movie too, which is kind of cool because people are always like, oh, how can they hear each other? But anyway, he's pretty much about to be killed by Thanos, and he gets the "On Your Left" from Falcon, reference to Winter Soldier, obviously. And then we get the first portal from the magicians appearing. We get the Black Panther cast walking through, and I'm just like, oh, okay, they brought back, they avenged the Fallen. We get the Black Panther cast, and I'm just like, are they really gonna do this? We literally get all the portals opening, literally all the portals. We get Wong coming through with all the magicians. Valkyrie comes through with all the Asgardians, I presume. We get a portal to Titan, where we get Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Spider-Man. Yes! All coming back. All right there. And then we get, I think, the rest of the Avengers come out. We get War Machine in, like, an Iron Patriot outfit, which is pretty cool, with his shoulder rocket. And then we get Giant Man comes back. The Wasp comes back. And then I think we get Iron Man, Thor next to Captain America. Cap summons Mjolnir, and I'm like, is he gonna say it? And he goes, Avengers assemble. First time it's uttered in the MCU, and then we get everyone charging the armies of Thanos. And this is where I first started crying in the movie. I cried tears of joy. That's undeniably my favorite scene in the entire MCU. And this whole scene here, that is what I consider the best of the MCU. That is, you cannot get better than that, I think. That was literally amazing. I can go all day about this scene. I even forgot Pepper showing up in that scene, because it's just, how better can you get? How much better can you get than that scene, really? The whole fight scene then is so cool. We get Iron Man embracing Peter again. We get them passing the Stark Gauntlet around, which is pretty cool. We get the whole female Avengers scene, which is pretty much like, hey, you like the scene in Infinity War where we had all the girls? Let's crank that up to 1 million and do it again. And then speaking of the female Avengers, it never crossed my mind that Captain Marvel was there, which is might be bad. So I don't know. Take that as you will. But then Captain Marvel comes through, blows apart the Sanctuary 2. I was excited to see Captain Marvel. I know people don't like Captain Marvel. I personally think the character is all right. And to see her show up and kind of sort of save the day like this, not really. I think that was the perfect mix of her saving the day, but not really saving the day, to let the other heroes take the win. And then her beating up Thanos was pretty cool. Until Thanos, because I think at this point Thanos has the gauntlet. Yeah, he's stolen the Stark Gauntlet. And he rips off the Power Stone and actually shoots Captain Marvel away. So it's kind of interesting to know that she isn't immune to the powers of Infinity Stones, which is pretty cool. She's not more powerful than an Infinity Stone. So I personally like that, because I think they made her a little overpowered sometimes. So I think she's gone for like the rest of the fight. And then we have the moment where Thanos is about to snap away all the world again. And then Doctor Strange tells Iron Man, only one time they won. Iron Man goes up to Thanos and steals all the stones. Thanos snaps and says, what does he say? I am inevitable, which is also a very cool line. And then I'm just thinking, oh no, why didn't it work? Turns over, no stones in the gauntlet. And I'm just like, no, they didn't. Iron Man shows he's integrating all the stones into his right arm. Interesting, they started using right arms. Integrates all the stones into his right arm, says, I am Iron Man. The line that essentially started the entire MCU, announced to the world there are superheroes, and with that, snaps away all of the villains. We get all of the Chitauri go away, and it's very poetic, I think, that last movie ended with all the heroes going away. This movie, all the villains go away, same way. Seeing Thanos disappear, people will be like, oh, but it took a while for him to disappear. What? Why does it matter? He stood there, and when you see him dust away, you really feel it. You're like, wow, they finally won. They took out Thanos, finally. even though they did in the beginning of the movie, but that didn't really feel like a victory, if you know what I mean. So, and then with that, like, it's a bittersweet victory. Then they take out all the enemies, and I will admit, before I get into the sad part, it was cool to see the Black Order working with Thanos. I wanted more of that. We got more of that, so that's cool. So then we get the moment where Iron Man, obviously we knew he can't, if Hulk couldn't use the powers of the stones like in the same way, then Iron Man, not even using the gauntlet, just using his suit, couldn't do so. And then he dies, which is then the second part where I cried. And it's Tony, it's Iron Man, and it was so sad. Like, before I went to the movie, I wanted to see Captain America die because I thought that would end his story. He kind of needed the death because he was the one. I think you know what I'm saying. Like, he completed his journey. He's the man out of time, basically. Iron Man was the one who had a child, had a wife, had a family, but he's the one who lost his life. And I think that's what brings the tragedy to the movie. And Pepper even says, "You can finally rest now," because since he became Iron Man, he's only been trying to help the world and stop evil. And with one snap, he finally erased all evil, but erased himself too. And then, then we get the funeral with all the characters. That was a really powerful scene as well, which is the last time where I cried and really sobbing in the movie, I will admit. And seeing all the Guardians in like their black uniforms, Mantis was kind of swaying side to side, which was kind of funny. And then there was a kid as well, which I was very confused. I was, who's that kid? I found out later that's actually the kid from Iron Man 3. So they really spare no expense, whatever it takes, to make that scene feel powerful. They really made that scene feel powerful. What did it in for me was when I saw in the wreath they were pushing away, it had the proof Tony Stark has a heart thing. Because the fact that there were all those characters there to say goodbye to Tony Stark, really, that was what proved Tony Stark had a heart. So from there, and then we get the Captain America ending, where we get, we also had the thing with Thor joining the Guardians, but that was silly. That was a little too long for me, especially considering literally right before that we had the funeral. So, but I like Thor joining the Guardians. I wanted that, so that's cool. Then we get the Captain America ending, where obviously he's about to return all the Infinity Stones. We don't really know necessarily but like the Mind Stone is not in Loki's scepter anymore. So how is he gonna get it back in there? The Space Stone is obviously not the Tesseract anymore. The Power Stone is not in the orb. Reality Stone is not a liquid. You could probably nitpick that to death, but I don't know. People ask the Russo brothers how they decided this would go down. What the Russo brothers say is technically canon, so ask them. I want to see what they say. Maybe I'll do a video on this later on. Let me know down below. But then they're about to send him back in time, and I've seen the theory, so I knew he's not coming back. So they push the button, he goes back in time, doesn't come back, and I'm like, yep, they really did it. And then they Bucky and Sam are there. They turn to the right, and they see an old man. Or at first I thought it was like a kid, so I was like, oh, he had a kid as well. That's pretty interesting. And then they realize it's old man Captain America, which was also really, really sad to see. And he makes Falcon the new Captain America, although they have the Falcon in the Winter Soldier show on Disney Plus, so I wonder if he'll stay like the Falcon, but now he uses the Captain America shield. I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, we got the ending to Captain America's story, and the movie ends with Captain America finally having his dance with Peggy Carter, and then the movie ends, and then the Endgame ended. And the credits are also very, very amazing. They're credits, I know, but the credits were also felt like there was so much love in them. Where they start with Don Cheadle, which was interesting. I was confused at first because obviously he's not like the main player in Infinity War, but every credit kind of has this like hazy view of something relating to this character, and that was really like kind of solidifying. This journey's over. The 22 movie journey is over. The Infinity Saga is over. And then after a certain point, I realized, oh, they're giving us like big credits for the last 6 Avengers. Pulling the Avengers theme, we get like signatures of the actors and actress for the Avengers, and then that really was the end. No mid credit scene, kind of sort of end credit scene, but I'll get to that in a second. No mid-credit scene. Really kind of throws it home. Like, this is really the end. They're not trying to like set up something. That's for Spider-Man Far From Home. That's that job. But this movie really solidifies this is the end. This is, they're not trying to pull a fast one on us. And then really what did it for me at the end, this is like a simple thing, but it really is so sad for me that at the end they just have the hammer of Iron Man forging his first armor in the cave. The sound that started the MCU, kind of, sort of, is what ends the MCU, or this era at least. So with that is my review of Avengers Endgame. This went for forever, but I really want to talk about this movie. So as I said, let me know what you thought of the channel changes, but really let me know what you thought of Avengers Endgame. Let me know anything I missed, if you want to know what I think of that. Anything you want down in the comment section. Obviously, this is spoiler territory. I'll leave a pinned comment in case you haven't seen the movie, just in case you accidentally go in those comments. So yeah, I think that's about it, and I'm gonna try to figure out if I can go watch Avengers Endgame again, because I really want to see it again, despite its flaws, which I think is just the humor is a bit strange. Despite those flaws, really the movie is fantastic. So let me know what you thought of the movie, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching.